Welcome to Miami. As you can see, the ship is back. We have just tied up to the port. Now we're just waiting for disembarkation to begin. As you can see, I'm packing up all my stuff behind me. A great cruise, a wonderful 5-day sailing. It goes by so fast, but now it's time to head home. And thank you all for watching. This is my very first cruise vlog series, and I appreciate that. So let's head back to DC. So I had a great cruise on the Carnival Sensation. There were several surprises, this being my first time on a fantasy class ship. I know sometimes these smaller, older ships of Carnival sort of get a bad rap, but it wasn't bad. The ship was well maintained. It was kept up to date. Like all the ships in the Carnival fleet now have had the Fun 2.0 updates. So it had the Guy Fieri burger joint. It had the Blue Iguana burritos and taco station, the rum bar, all those things that you're going to expect from the Carnival experience it had. Even though the interior was quite gaudy and it did look like the interior of a shopping mall, as I made note several times, it was very well maintained, and it still was held to that Carnival standard that you expect, no matter if you're selling their oldest ship or their newest ship. So that was one of the things I liked most about the ship, was that it was well maintained despite being almost 30 years old and one of the oldest ships in the Carnival fleet. One of the other misconceptions that come, I think, also about the fantasy class of ships, the older ships, and definitely the shorter itineraries, shorter than about 6 days, is that these are party crowds, that you're going to get a lot of people drinking, and it's going to be younger people and just there to party. That was definitely not the feel on this cruise. I'm not sure how other cruises might be. It may just be the time of the year that I went. I did go on, I departed on February 29th of 2020. Now this was a lot of spring breakers out for a cruise. I did notice, a lot of college, looking kids out. Also, when we were in Port Nassau, we were there with, I think there were 5 Royal Caribbean ships. Those were on like 3-day sailings from Florida. So a lot of those did carry those spring breakers, and you could definitely tell with all the people that were there in Nassau that day that there were a lot of spring breakers there. But as far as the party atmosphere, the party crowd, I was not affected by any of that. Did not see any of that going on. Didn't see anyone that was just way too drunk or anything like that. Nothing like that affected my cruise experience. And crowds in general on the ship was actually fantastic. It really felt like in certain places of the ship that there was very few people on the ship. I've mainly sailed on the Dream and Vista classes in the past few years. The large ships, the biggest ships that Carnival has, those can feel very crowded at times. Now, again, I've only sailed one fantasy class ship, so this could just be my perception. It could be completely wrong, but I felt there were fewer people. It could be more square feet per people sailing, for capacity of that ship. But it felt like there were fewer people on this fantasy class ship than the bigger ships, and I definitely enjoyed that. Just more room to move around, less lines, less of a wait. I didn't have to wait not one time. I had your time dining, which I always get when I go on my cruises, and normally I have to wait a little bit to get a table on some of the bigger ships, and I did not have to wait one time. I think I went to the dining room 3 times over the course of the 5-day sailing. One sort of random thing that I did like about the ship was the elevators. Even though they were super old, they were super fast. Once you got inside them and started going up or down on the ship, they were just very quick. So that was one thing that caught my attention. I was like, hey, this is pretty cool and kind of unusual. That could also play into the lighter crowd too. There could have just been less people using the elevators, which made them seem faster. So those two could actually go hand in hand. I would have to say that the larger lounge for comedy is another thing I enjoyed about the Carnival Sensation. Again, having sailed those bigger ships, the Limelight Lounge is very small on these bigger ships. It's so crazy to me that Carnival, so many people want to go to comedy. There's always a line for comedy on the big ships, and they're crammed into this tiny little lounge. And then on the Carnival Fantasy class ships, where again, you have less people, the lounge just seemed so much bigger, and there were like very few people, it seemed like, watching comedy because the lounge was just so big. So I really enjoyed having so much room for people, so that people weren't having to miss out on comedy, and it was able to seat more people for comedy. So that was really nice. Also, I did notice, I didn't make it this night of the cruise, but one night they did have both comedians that were on board in the main lounge on the ship for like a 10 o'clock or 10:45 show, and they had both of them perform that night, and that was a really cool idea also. I don't know why the bigger ships on Carnival, they haven't done this more often and had the comedians perform in the bigger lounge. Now for a couple things that I didn't enjoy quite as much on the Carnival Sensation. The first one was quite the disappointment. I've always been a fan of Carnival Sea Day Brunch. It used to be called the Carnival Punchline or Comedy Sea Day Brunch, something like that. But the Sea Day Brunch has always been so good. They used to have the French toast with cereal on it, so you could get like Fruit Loops French toast, which was my personal favorite, and also the steak and eggs. Well, recently, I think in the past year or two, Carnival has been rolling out this new menu for Sea Day Brunch, and I was really excited to try it because Sea Day Brunch, as I said, is one of the things that I enjoy about a Carnival cruise. However, I was not impressed. First of all, I was one of the first people there. Again, early riser. I woke up and was there right around, I think, 8:30 whenever the dining room opened for Sea Day Brunch. And from the time I was seated and to the time I got my food was over 30 minutes. So that was the first strike for that. The second one was, what I got at least, was just not good. I ordered the skillet cake, and I had done my research. I had looked ahead of time for the menu online, looked over all the options. I'd looked at pictures from other people who had tried it out that were already online, and I was like, oh, the skillet cake looks really good. I was super disappointed. This was the most rubbery thing I've ever been served on a Carnival cruise ship. The consistency of it was just awful. It had a very bad texture. It was like overdone. I couldn't even cut it with my fork because it was like, one of those like kid rubber pieces of food that they might play with or something. It was like just really gross. I couldn't eat it. I took like 1 or 2 bites and it was just not good. Also with that, I got a piece of ham, and the ham was rubbery. It was cold. Just not a good meal. So I was waiting about 30 something minutes for my food, and I was with my food for about 5 minutes before I just gave up. I don't like to waste. I know there's so much food and so much waste that goes on a cruise ship, but I never like to be a part of that. But I wasted my food that morning. I left the dining room and went up to Lido Buffet and got myself some food there because the Sea Day Brunch was just not good. So I don't know if it was just what I ordered or if it was just a bad day on the ship, but it was very disappointing because that was the only Sea Day we had that entire sailing. So the only opportunity for me to try out the Sea Day Brunch. So I can't formulate any other opinion other than the one I had that one particular morning, but I was not a fan of the Sea Day Brunch on the Carnival Sensation. Lastly, one of the things that I didn't like, and this is not anything major, it's sort of in the layout of the ship, but the way that the stairs are oriented on the Carnival Fantasy class ships. So let me try to explain this, I guess. On the Conquest and Dream and Vista class ships, if you are going to go up any of the stairways, they're oriented toward the aft or toward the forward of the ship. But on the Fantasy class ships, they're actually oriented toward the port or the other side of the ship. Why does that escape me right now? So they're on the left and the right of the ship, whereas on the bigger ships, they're toward the front and toward the back. It would normally not be a problem. However, we did encounter quite a bit of rough seas while we were on this sailing. So anytime the ship rolled, you're trying to go up and down the stairs that are on that same side of the ship. So it actually felt like you were going to fall up or down the stairs if you were ever trying to walk up or down the stairs when you had quite a bit of listing going on. So that was just a very minor thing, but it was something that I noticed that was not as good as those forward and aft oriented stairs on the bigger Carnival ship. That is all for my review of the Carnival Sensation. It was a great, very fun sailing. It was great to get away. It's always great to be on Carnival. Every time I go, it's like, going back home because everything is so familiar. So if it's your first time sailing a Carnival Fantasy Class ship and you're not sure, how that will be compared to some of the bigger ships, just go for it. Try it out, because at the end of the day, it's Carnival. You're going to have the same food. You're going to have the same events. You're going to go to the same beautiful port. So why not try it off? And there's going to be fewer people, and you're going to feel like there's more room. So definitely try it out. Don't sleep on the smaller ships, because I really did enjoy, and I really will in the future be looking to take more cruises on the Fantasy Class of ships. Thank you all for joining me. This is the end of our cruise log series. This was my first, and it was so much fun. Thank you all for the feedback that you left on the videos, and thank you for joining in this adventure. And please subscribe, turn on those alerts down below, like this video, and be prepared, because I am motivated now to provide you guys a look at more adventures that I take down the road. And I have more cruises booked and plan on vlogging those. So hang in there, and thanks for watching.